trouble.
For over 15 years, Saturdays and Illegal Curve have been synonymous with one another. With insight, analysis, and interviews regarding the Winnipeg Jets, the Manitoba Moose, and all around the NHL, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve Hockey Show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Good morning, Winnipeg. Good morning, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this morning on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good morning, universe, and welcome to the season finale of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. With Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I am your host, Drew Mindell. Here for the next couple of hours. We're going to have some fun today, folks. We'll talk about the Jets, of course. Jamie Thomas is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. If you have any questions, anything you want us to discuss, throw it in the chat. Maybe we'll throw that up on the screen. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's the season finale. We're off after today until Banjo Bowl Saturday. I believe that is the 6th of September, if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
But there you go. Thank you, Ezzy. My calendar, my official calendar. But we'll have some fun today. We'll make it a fun last couple of hours talking about the Jets getting together on this Saturday morning. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Ezzy had a nice night out with you last night. Yes, that's right. I said that. Nice night out with Ezzy. Try to get your jaws off the ground, everybody. Dave M., nice to see you as well, broadcasting from a different palatial villa in your repertoire of mansions that you have.
Yeah, we went out last night. Dave was obviously in the Interlake, so he couldn't come out with us. And it was amazing. Like, we got together and we actually didn't end up fighting like Nick Tarnasky style guys. So yeah, we actually had a very calm, lovely evening
Yes.
in Assiniboine Park at the bar there. And but we definitely missed you, Dave.
Dave's on mute or his computer's not working, one or the other, not sure, but there you go. Maybe.
No, I'm working. I'm working.
Okay, there you go. There's
I'm
Dave
here.
M. Okay.
I was trying to tell you guys, I'm sending you guys a message saying that this computer's a little delayed. It's struggling right now. So I may have to switch to my phone if it's continues to be that way.
Yes, because Dave forgot altogether to bring his computer with him, despite knowing that he had a show to do. But that's right. We're in off-season mode without even being in off-season mode, apparently. Nonetheless, good to see everybody on this Saturday morning. Good to see all of our friends in the chat as well. Ezzy, Dave, let's talk about the Jets. Like I said, if you have any questions or anything else you want us to discuss over the course of the next couple of hours, you can throw it in the chat and maybe we'll get to it. Kenny Weaver, buddy, wrote an article, earlier this week. The Jets lineup is more or less set, I believe. I mean, there might be, a trade, there might be something unexpected, but for the most part, I think we know where the Jets are going to sort of start training camp at. Now, could jobs be won or lost in training camp? No question about it. It's a possibility. But as you sit here today on July the 12th, the NHL season, the NHL offseason is definitely going to quiet down at this point in time. So how do you evaluate the Winnipeg Jets right now after all the machinations of free agency and the draft and everything else seems to have sort of come to an end? How do you evaluate, where do you place the Winnipeg Jets in and among the teams, let's say, in their division and in the Western Conference, Ezzy?
It's very difficult to really say that the Jets have gotten significantly better just based on losing Nick Ehlers, right? So you could break it down and say, Jets lose Ehlers, they lose Appleton and Tanev, and they replace them with, Taves, Nyquist, and Kepke / Tanner Pearson, right? You could simplify it down to that, but and if you are doing that, I think then you're taking a little bit of a step back, right? You lose Ehlers for nothing, but then you gain Taves for nothing, and you'd like to think that Gus Nyquist replaces and then some offense from Mason Appleton, right? Even though I think Nyquist is going to be given a shot in the top 6. So just based on the 3 or 4, let's say, deletions and additions, I'd have to say that the Jets have taken a little bit of a step back, but I want to, caution everybody. I'm not saying that means that I think the Jets aren't going to be a playoff team next year. Right. That's not what I'm saying. I think the Jets are absolutely going to be a top team in the Central, and I think it's going to be, the same players as last year. I think it's going to be Dallas. It's going to be Colorado. I think Utah is going to take a step forward. I think Minnesota is most likely going to be better because we saw Minnesota kind of, tail off towards the end of the season. They had a really hot start, right? So it's going to be a competitive division, and I still think the Jets are at the top of that division. But I think, that's what's exciting, guys, right? Like Gus Nyquist, everybody knows, like, you just have to go to Hockey DB and look at his numbers. He had his career year 75 points a couple years ago, but then he only had 28 points. So, there's a little bit of uncertainty there with Nyquist, right? What are you getting? And I think that, it ultimately comes down to, for the Jets, I mean, the Jets are, better than the sum of their parts, right? The Jets, I should say, are the sum of their parts. This is a great team. And even though you lose Ehlers, there's lots of other players that are going to be given the opportunity to step into the lineup, whether that's a Brad Lambert or a Nikita Chibrikov. So I think, I think it's been a fairly successful offseason for the Jets, but there's still a lot of question marks, guys, right? Like, and we're going to be talking about that, obviously, when we come back in September. And those question marks are going to remain most likely until we get into early in the regular season, right? But it's definitely the look of this team is going to be quite different, especially in the top six. Obviously, the defense, guys, we know is going to be much more certain and much more similar to last year. There's really the only question mark for me is a player like Ville Heinola traded.
Right, but that's with all due respect to Ville Heinola, and sorry for interrupting you there, but with all due respect, he's not going to be a difference maker regardless at this point in time. He's a guy that, if he gets traded, he's not bringing you back anything that's going to dramatically alter your roster. He's not going to bring back a roster player from another team. He's bringing back at best a draft pick or something like that might.
Sorry, Drew, I wanted to mention, and I'm sure you guys saw this. Kenny Weeb mentioned this that I wasn't aware about. If Heinola doesn't play, I think 27 games next year, he becomes a UFA.
He becomes a Group 6 UFA.
Right. So that's something to consider, right? Like, and based on the fact that Sandberg still hasn't signed yet, we all expect Sandberg to sign sooner rather than later, right? It would be nice if he signed during the show today, boys. But Sandberg's going to make 9 defensemen that the Jets have on one-way contracts, right? So that's kind of shows you that, Ville Heinola is really the odd man out currently, and most likely he is going to be moved, or he's probably going to spend the year in the American Hockey League, Dave. Like, I'm not sure if it gets to that point, but
he can't. Would he clear waivers? I don't think that he necessarily would, because one team would take a flyer probably on a young defenseman to see if they can tap into the potential that made him at some point in time a high draft pick. So, look, Ville Heinola, it's not realistic at this point to expect Ville Heinola to be a contributor on this Winnipeg Jets team, unless
especially now that Hayden Fleury is signed, right?
Unless he comes in and absolutely blows, has made some sort of dramatic change to his game, improvement to his game, but it's unlikely that that's going to have happened because. Where would have he had that opportunity to do so? Everyone's doing their off-season training. Sure, maybe his off-season training, helps him to some extent, but to all of a sudden leapfrog multiple people on a depth chart would be, not something you would necessarily count on. It wouldn't be something you would necessarily expect there, Dave M. So, as he's pointed, the defensemen seem pretty set. The forward group has had some changes, but they're definitely less talented than they were at the beginning. At the end of last year, for certain.
Well, there's no question about it. I think part of that is going to be coaching. They're going to have to start instituting some changes because you don't have Nikolai Ehlers, and you have to game plan differently now because you don't have a dynamic player like that, a game breaker on that second line. Now, it doesn't mean you can't have success without Nikolai Ehlers. The Jets were able to do that when Nikolai Ehlers wasn't in the lineup, right? He missed 18 games last year or something like that. So it's not like the Jets lost Nikolai Ehlers and weren't able to win anymore, right, Ezzy? They still won hockey games. They just won them in a different manner than when Nikolai Ehlers was not in the lineup. So, again, do I think Nikolai Ehlers makes his Jets team more talented? There's no question about it. He absolutely does. But that's not their reality anymore. So now the reality is they have to game plan for life without Nikolai Ehlers, which, as I said, they were able to do successfully. I don't remember what their record was without him in the lineup, but we know the Jets record was pretty good, right? They didn't have any extended losing streaks. So they most likely did, as at least close to what they were achieving last year with him. So, and that's because other guys got opportunity. And look, Kevin Cheveldayoff, we talked about Brad Lambert, and people now it's almost like the word opportunities become a dirty word, boys, because like when I use it, people are rather dismissive and say, well, they're not going to get it. Again, there's nothing saying that a guy who comes in here can take a job away from someone. Don't get me wrong. I understand the organization's loathe. I don't think that's going to happen with Elias Salamonson unless he's incredible and they have to move someone, and unless they really reshuffle the deck and, like you guys just said, trade a Luke Shen and get rid of Ville Heinola. So it'll really reduce their defensive grouping. But from a forward perspective, I don't think, again, you've lost the more talented player. There's no question about it. But some of the parts fulfill what they were able to do without him last year. That's what I'm curious about. Where is Jonathan Toews going to be? I mean, remember, it's not like you're saying Jonathan Toews is replacing a center who had 50 or 60 points last year, right? And there was a long period of time where Vlad Nemestikov wasn't even putting up any points. I know he ended up with 38 or something like that, but whatever it wasn't as if he's this guy that Jonathan Toews has to come in and like get to this level right away. So I just think obviously the start is going to be important. And the Gus Nyquist one, he's a real buy low, right? I mean, you got him on a 1-year deal. Does he have anything left in the tank? Can he be, can he replace Mason Appleton on that third line with Adam Lowry and Nino Niederreiter? Again, there's so many question marks. We don't know. And that's why I always say, like, it's speculation nation. But yeah, I just think I'll be interested to watch. But I don't think, again, I'm not dismissing the importance of Nikolai Ehlers. The Jets have nobody who's like him, really, to replace him. So, but again, for 18 games, they didn't have him. He was great in the playoffs, and the power play is going to be different. So Cole Perfetti is going to have to take that opportunity. But remember, Cole Perfetti is playing for his next big contract. So he's really incentivized to have a big year next year.
Well, you just mentioned Cole Perfetti. Like, I agree with Dave. Like, everyone knows that Ehlers is irreplaceable. Like, Ehlers is a big loss. But I think that you can't estimate the loss of Ehlers either, right? Like, this is still a team that just won the President's Trophy, and there was one goal in overtime away from forcing a Game 7, bringing it back to Winnipeg, and possibly going to the West Final to play Edmonton, right? So, like, this is a very good team. So the question you have to ask yourself is, well, how significant, like, how do you quantify it? How big is the loss of Ehlers? Well, we can look at the numbers, and obviously he was a very impactful player, both at even strength and on the power play, right? So it's going to be a big loss. And so, yeah, there's question marks about, how much offense are you going to get from Nyquist? Is that going to be on a second line, or is that going to be on a third line? Toews, how much can Toews replace Nemestikov's offense? Can he give you a little bit more than Nemestikov? He's also very good on faceoffs, and he's good defensively, and he can help you on special teams, right? So there's a lot of different factors here with the forward group. Like we talked about, the D group is solid, right? Like, it's not necessarily the best group of defensemen in the NHL, but it's still the best defensive team in the league last year. So I think, you have a lot of stability there on the back end, but there's more question marks. How much offense can you get from Tanner Pearson? Is Pearson like a third line guy? Is he a fourth line guy? Is Cole Koepke a third line guy, or is he a fourth line guy? You're expecting internal improvements from Morgan Barron, and specifically, like Dave just mentioned, Cole Perfetti, right? Cole Perfetti was much better kind of towards the second half of the season than he was in the first half of the season. So, you don't want to overstate the loss of Nikolai Ehlers, but also you don't want to understate it either.
Well, let's talk about it. So Ehlers obviously brought a specific dynamic to the Winnipeg Jets that none of the other players did or really do bring to the table, and hasn't been replaced, won't be replaced immediately. Should the Winnipeg Jets, rather than trying to, replace, sort of have a 50% version of a Nikolai Ehlers-esque, should they really focus in even more on becoming a defensive juggernaut? Now, we know that they've given up the 2 years in a row, they've given up the least goals in the NHL. And it's hard to get much better than they already have been in terms of stinginess defensively. But is that really sort of the focus, rather than trying to, replace a Nikolai Ehlers with a 50% version of him? Should they really focus even more on what they do well and try and do it even better next year? Is that the ticket to success? Obviously, you still need to score goals. So no one's going to say you're going to put 5 goalies in the net and call it even at that and try and win every game 1-0 in a shootout. But, is that sort of the focus that, might be the talking point to start the season, is that, look, we have been a defensive stalwart for the last 2 years. We need to continue to be even better defensively, and that will be our secret to success, rather than trying to sort of change their style or force a player to be something they aren't, and that's Nikolai Ehlers.
You always want to be as good defensively as you can, right? I mean, that goes without saying, Drew. And it goes back to what we just talked about. The Jets have lost one of their best offensive players, and Nyquist, all due respect, I mean, he's not going to replace the speed. He's not going to have the same impact on the power play, but he's a very good veteran offensive player, right? So I think it goes without saying that in order for the Jets to be successful, their bread and butter is the way they play defensively and the goaltending that they get from Hellebuck, right? So I think the obvious answer is yes. I don't think that they're going to completely change the style that they play, by the way, based on just one player moving. But
right. I'm not saying they're going to change their style, but is that sort of just they have to even lock in more, Dave, on that defensive identity? That has been, of course, since Rick Bowness was the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, that has been what has led them to success, is change their, that they've changed to be this defensively minded, defense first, impenetrable defensive force in their own zone, blah, 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 and that is eventually what led to, ultimately their success. Is that need to be sort of the message that's hammered by Scott Arniel in day one of training camp, is we need to be even better defensively.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're saying lean into your strength, right? I mean,
Yes.
You've already lost, you one of your strengths was Nikolai Ehlers. You don't have that anymore. I agree with you. I mean, look, I'm not adverse, and I agree with Ez. You're going to give Brad Lambert looks. You're going to get Brad Lambert a chance to be on the wing, potentially. I mean, he prefers playing center, but the Moose moved him to the wing to give him more opportunity, a little more breathing room last year. He didn't have a lot of it because of the way the team was constructed. So we'll see what kind of offseason he has. Maybe he's ready. Again, he's 8 years younger than Nikolai Ehlers, so I don't think he's quite ready to assume the same mantle, and I would caution folks. But I think until you see what you have in him, Drew, yeah, I think it's absolutely reasonable to say what has been our number one attribute this entire run we've been on since Rick Bowness for 3 years, and now continue with Scott Arniel. It's been our defensive play. It's been our acumen in keeping the puck out of our net. That's obviously partly Connor Hellebuck, but that's also the defensive structure in front of him that has allowed him to be, a Vezina winner and, of course, a Hart winner. So those two things don't go one without the other. If the defensive structure of the Jets is porous, with all due respect to Connor Hellebuck, he's not putting up the numbers he's putting up with that. He's doing it because it's working in tandem. So I think you have to lean into your strength. And then again, there's so many question marks, right? Because right now, all we keep hearing is everybody's a buyer except for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But then we also hear the Penguins were in on Brock Besser. So they too were a buyer. But my point is that every team, it seems, is not a buyer at this point. So, or is a buyer, sorry, is not a seller. So my thought is that if the Jets can have a good start, especially without Adam Lowry, and then keep themselves, again, being first doesn't really matter to me. It's being in the mix in the Central. You want to be in that top 3 for sure, but it's not super critical. And then you have yourself in a good position that when teams turn into sellers, you're in a position to buy whatever that need is that you're lacking to maybe get you to that next level.
Well, and I think you have a point there. Look, what your lineup is to start the season isn't your lineup necessarily to start a playoff run or later on in the year. There's no reason why the Winnipeg Jets, look, they were once they got off to the start they got off to last year, they were a playoff team. I mean, more or less, they were already assured a playoff spot strictly by how they performed in that first 15, 16 games of the season. No one can expect them to be that good just the same. But whatever you do, if you sort of establish yourself as a playoff team early on, then you can begin to look to augment once more sellers become apparent in the course of the season. So yes, to Dave's point, right now only the Pittsburgh Penguins seem to be a team that is, got players available. Ricard Raquel, Brian Rust. We know the names. Pittsburgh seems to be all over the place. No one's quite sure what exactly they're doing.
Yeah, they're not going to be very good next year.
No, they're not. I mean, that's fine. So you can see why teams are looking at them and saying, okay, this guy could augment this part of my lineup. This guy could augment this. But it also doesn't need to be done now. It doesn't need to be done on July 12th. It doesn't need to be done on August 12th. It doesn't need to be done on September 12th. If you get off to a good start, the Winnipeg Jets have shown that they're willing to make those moves in December, in January, in February, leading up to the trade deadline, whenever it may be. So, I think you have enough meat on the bone as currently constructed for the Winnipeg Jets to be a good team in the West. Not necessarily the best team in the West, not necessarily an elite team in the West, but we've seen for the last couple of years now, that you don't necessarily have to be an elite team in the regular season. I think the Jets, by virtue of winning the President's Trophy last year, put themselves in that upper echelon category. If during this regular season, they're only a solidly in the playoffs team rather than a top the league team, I don't think that changes their trajectory. I don't think that changes their ceiling. I think that means they know what they need to do in the regular season. They've done it to some degree, making themselves a playoff team, but they don't necessarily need to be a front runner like they were last year, when I think they needed to be a front runner to put themselves into the conversation of the best teams in the league.
It comes back to kind of what I was saying before, Drew. Like, the Jets had 116 points last year, won the President's Trophy. So again, if you were to put up the additions and deletions and you quantify, like Dom Lucian of The Athletic is a guy that's going to come out with his projected standings if he hasn't already. By the way, Can we get an NHL schedule any day here?
It's coming out on what? Is it on Monday, Dave? Monday or Tuesday of next week? Wednesday. Okay. Dave M's got a bit of a lag, so that's why he's a little bit.
No. I'm good. I was just unmuting myself, but yeah, it's Wednesday. Okay. Sorry.
Wednesday.
Plus, I was looking something else
will be out. Yeah. Plus, you were doing something else altogether. Wednesday is when the NHL schedule will be out, so we'll know more. It's still only an 82 game schedule this year, not 84 just yet. We'll have to wait a couple of years for that.
And Gary Bettman added those 2 games personally for you, Drew, because you said there weren't enough regular season games.
So have 100 regular season games. 200. They should play every day of the week.
Yeah. The goal is actually to have more than the MLB. That's the whole goal of,
of
the NHL. Is just they're gonna add two games a year until we get to 168 games a year.
That's good. They're also adding 2 teams a year, so they'll be at 168 teams enough as well.
Yeah, exactly. Quebec's gonna have a team back by then. But yeah, I mean, going back to what we were talking about, I think for me, like, if I'm going to, sum it up in one sentence, is, the Jets have taken a little bit of a step back. And it goes back to what I said before. That doesn't mean that I think they're going to be a wild card team. Like, we have some people in the chat that are saying, with Ehlers leaving, and the replacements or the additions for the Jets, the signings of Taves and Nyquist and Pearson and Koepke and so on, and all the additions that the Moose made, that the Jets are going to be a wild card team. I don't know necessarily that there's going to be that big of a drop off. Like, I don't think there's going to be like a 20 to 25 point drop off for the Jets. I see it being kind of more of like a 10 point drop off, and the Jets are going to be kind of right in there, and maybe they're second or third in the division this year. I still think the Jets can win the division. Like, at the end of the day, guys, they've got one of the best top lines in the league with Scheifele, Connor, and Velarde. You've got the best goalie in the league with Connor Hellebuck. And Josh Morrissey was 4th in Norris voting. So right there at the core of your team, and then obviously, I didn't even mention, you've got the forward depth with Scheifele, Taves, Lowry, and Morgan Barron, right? So I still think this is an elite team. I really do. But again, I don't want to either understate or overstate the loss of Ehlers, because it's a significant one. And probably for me, one of the biggest things that I'm going to be focusing on or interested in early on in the season is how much is their even strength play going to be affected, and if their power play doesn't start as red hot as it did last year, because let's be honest, guys, it was at 40% for a big chunk of the early part of the season. Like, is the power play going to be as effective? Because let's be honest, the power play won them games last year. There's no question about it that the power play, the Jets could have had been playing pretty mediocre, and they get a couple goals on the power play, right? So that's another thing that I'm going to be curious about, because Ehlers, as we know, is a top 20, maybe top 10 guy in the NHL when it comes to what he can do at even strength, right?
Well, the
So
Jets
again,
had the most power play goals 5-on-4 in the NHL last year with 58. The second place team, interesting, was the Detroit Red Wings. And the Red Wings were nobody's definition of a playoff team. So the Jets, power play certainly was a dramatic strength, as you articulated, and as we all know. But I agree with you. The 5-on-5 scoring last year, the Jets had 170 goals for at 5-on-5. That placed them 11th in the NHL. Without Nikolai Ehlers, it's hard to not imagine that number dropping down a bit. And so if you become, say, 16th, 17th, 18th in 5-on-5 goal scoring, how does that ultimately affect everything? You need to find a way to mitigate the drop in goals that's going to probably naturally come without a Nikolai Ehlers in your lineup. You're going to have to find, the cliche scoring by committee. I mean, how many guys did the Jets have last year that were in double figures in goals for them? That was, one of the big keys to the team. I mean, you have all the way down, Neil Pionk. The Jets had 12 players last year who had double digits in goals. Can they replicate that again? Can they find that again? Can Gus Nyquist get double digits? Can Jonathan Taves get double digits? Somebody, Mason Appleton, a guy that I don't think anybody's terribly upset that the Jets didn't re-sign him. He still had double digits in goals for the Jets. So somebody needs to pick up that slack and continue to get those goals, be it a Tanner Pearson, be it a Cole Koepke. I mean, Al Iafallo, he had 15 last year. He's probably going to play a little bit higher maybe in the lineup. He needs to replicate that. There's just a lot of guys need to sort of maintain what they did last year, and then other guys need to come in and supplement what Nikolai Ehlers did for the Jets. The problem is if any of the guys who performed well last year take a step back as well, that's where the Winnipeg Jets, I believe, might run into some difficulties.
Right, and that's why it goes back to what you were saying, and I'll go to Dave here. Like, I still think that the bread and butter of this team hasn't changed. I still think this is going to be one of the best defensive teams in the league, but I just think they've lost a little bit of offense, Dave. That's really, again, there's a lot of people that are saying the Jets are going to miss the playoffs. They're going to be a wild card team, or this is devastating. And we'll wait and see. But I really do think that they still have enough depth at forward that they're going to be able to make up for the loss of Ehlers. But there's going to be some pressure on Gus Nyquist. Like, let's not pretend that they brought him in here just to be a fourth line guy. Like, they're expecting him to produce.
Yeah, they
the only thing I would add.
Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to say, the only thing I would add to the conversation is, where did the Florida Panthers finish last year?
Right.
Were they 7th in the league? Like, my point is that, last year when everybody was saying, the President's winning, the President's Trophy winner is a curse. And I think the second most teams that have won since they've been handing that out in 37 or 38 years was the team that finished second. But the fact of the matter is, you can win the from any position. As long as you're in the top 16, 15, 16, maybe not so much. But as long as you're in that top, really from anywhere from 1 to 12, you got a shot. And so that's what the Jets need to kind of focus on. And that's, again, as he's 100% right. Nobody knows. We don't know what we don't know. We don't know. Look, again, when I went back and I looked at our preview for this year, we all thought the Jets would be a playoff team. We didn't think the Jets were going to do what they did. So it's like, to me, I'm with Ez. Do I think the team takes a step back? Maybe 10, 15 points? Maybe. Sure. But I don't think that's the end of the world, because as long as you're playing consistently and you're losing close games, those aren't like 5-6-1 games, then it's really not as significant, again, because you hope that if this team is humming along, because the window is now for the team, that they're willing to augment when the trade deadline comes about in March.
Yeah, I think they know the games they need to win in the regular season now. And that comes with success during the regular season. That not every game is the Stanley Cup final in the regular season, but you need to win, 2/3 of them, or 3/5 of them, and then you'll be fine. And I think the Jets know that. They know that, yes, they didn't win the Stanley Cup after winning the President's Trophy. But to my point, what you learn from winning consistently in the regular season is when to step on the gas and win the key games, and then when to maybe not lose, but you don't have to be pedal to the metal all 82 games of the regular season. We've seen that from Florida. We've seen that from Edmonton. Look, last year the Panthers overall in the NHL finished 11th, but at no point did anyone ever think that they weren't going to be a playoff team.
No.
Edmonton
Florida was that team that you didn't want to play in the playoffs.
Well, you saw them for what
especially
they
after
were.
they got Brad Marchand and Seth Jones.
Yeah. What you saw them for what they were. You saw them for a team that was biding their time, that was, patiently winning the games they needed to win, and then when the playoffs started, they were able to level up a little bit, because that's what it's impossible. It's very difficult, maybe not impossible, but to play at an absolute elite level for all 82 games and then 4 rounds of the playoffs is a very difficult Herculean task to ask of athletes. So instead, you pace yourself. You're still not chasing. Chasing a playoff spot is different than pacing yourself when you're in a playoff spot. If you're pacing yourself, you're fine. You know what you need to know. You do what you need to do. It's when it becomes more difficult than that it begins to be maybe a problem for teams moving forward.
Drew, all I'm going to add is if anybody watched the Edmonton Oilers or the Florida Panthers during the regular season this year, you watched teams that were pacing themselves 1,000%, knew what they needed to do. And I think your point is excellent.
Yeah, there you go. Jamie Thomas is set to join us here on the program momentarily. We'll go to break. We'll let Jamie come on and join the program. Much more Jets talk coming your way. Plus, throw your questions into the chat. Maybe we'll address some of them in the course of the next 90 or so minutes. It's the season finale of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on this Saturday morning.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime. Visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in 2 unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Season finale will be back September the 6th, Banjo Bowl Saturday. That's when we will return for yet another season of great hockey talk. Drew Mindell, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg. We want to say thank you, of course, to all of our sponsors. They've been with us lockstep all season long, and it's thanks to them, and it's, of course, thanks to you, the audience, that that we're able to bring these shows to you on a regular basis. Of course, Play Now, they're the title sponsor of our show. Holt Dental, as I bash my computer and move my camera there. Holt Dental, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Boston Pizza, City Place, Seagram's, and of course, our friends at Wheatland Hockey. So big thanks to all of them for their continued support of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Also, another one of our friends, well, he's still getting together backstage, so I'll give him another minute or two before Jamie Thomas is set to join us here on the program.
He's just fixing that hair. He's going to make sure that his hair is top-notch for us.
Well coiffed, Jamie Thomas, as he goes ahead and does that. Jamie, good morning. How are you, buddy?
Listen, I'm so sorry. I was just having a conversation with my wife's cousins before we have to have breakfast here in sunny St. Albert, Alberta. So
you're on the road. You're joining us. You're road tripping.
Thank you. Yes, my daughter's in a soccer tournament here in Spruce Grove, Alberta. So it's just her and I. And Ezzy gave me a nice little text message yesterday. So thank you for having me on the show.
It's our pleasure to have you on, Jamie. Couldn't finish the season without getting back together with you. You know, we were talking in the opening segment, just talking about the Jets for next year, because the lineup is relatively set. I think most people would agree. There might be some changes, and not to say that there might not be something that happens unexpectedly, but given where the lineup is right now, or where it appears to be for next season, how do you think the Jets are going to maybe have to adapt to the new players that they have on their roster and the subtractions from well-established members of the organization who are no longer going to be wearing the Jets jersey?
Well, I think the biggest thing, guys, is just there's a lot of question marks. There's you go from now you're like the oldest team in the National Hockey League, so you have a lot of established players on your roster, but how does it all fit? And the other part is, I don't think we can really understate the loss of Adam Lowry to start the season. Whatever Jonathan Toews is, not having your best defensive center on your roster is going to be a challenge for them. That's going to be the other part. And you look back at last year, you have the immaculate start to the season. I don't think we can all expect that to happen again. And to me, the remaining issue is how much of a gauntlet the Central Division is. And yes, the Jets have had their way with their Central Division rivals for a very long time, but man, St. Louis is, as we saw in the playoffs, what they're going to be like. You can't tell me Nashville is going to be as brutal as they were last year. I think we can all still write off Chicago, but that's the only one. That's the only team really in the division. Utah's coming. So I don't think it's going to be, and I'm not being negative, just last year's start was so incredible. It's hard to think that that's happening for a second consecutive year. So the start will be very interesting for me, and how everybody comes together. You've added I do like the idea that you've added a lot of veteran presence. You've added two more players to your dressing room that have won Stanley Cups. So that part to me is going to be, your back end is fine. You have your top line still, there's lots of things that way, but what is your second line? How does that shake out? And I think there's optimism because of Gustav Nyquist is just 2 years removed of 75 points. Nashville added so many players last year that he just didn't really fit in. There wasn't a role for him there. There will be a role for him with the Winnipeg Jets. And then Jonathan Toews is the biggest question mark. We're all excited about it. You've added a Stanley Cup winner, and you should be excited about that part. But what is he? What can he get back to what he was 2 years, or after missing 2 full years of hockey? So how long does that look? And is load management a reality? Because Scott O'Neill said that there's a possibility of it. And because of the Olympic schedule, it's going to be more compressed. So does that happen? But we've heard this before. We've heard, we're going to ease him back into the lineup or ease him back into hockey. But looking at him, I still see him walking off the plane, and you see his quads are just massive, and he just looks ready to go. So does that 2 years of being away and refreshing your body, and the fact that you're so optimistic and excited that you are able to play hockey again, is that going to help the Jets and Jonathan Toews? But the second line, which was such a driver last year. What does that how does that look, and how does that fit out? We're going to find out the schedule on Wednesday. Like, what's that going to be like, and who is the Central Division going to be as much of a gauntlet as I think it expected to be? So there's like there's after having years of stability and understanding what the Jets were or are, I'm just not sure what they are up front. Even though you've added a lot of veteran presence to your lineup, and listen, the reason why Mason Appleton's not here is because he just couldn't score enough. Provide enough offense for the Jets, and that's not a knock to him, but it's just will the third line be able to provide offense and the second line? So the middle six group of forwards is where I'm wondering how that's all going to shake out.
And Jamie, that leads perfectly into my next question, because you mentioned Adam Lowry, and the fact that we're not sure exactly how many games he's going to miss, but it looks like he could miss about a month of action.
Right.
Which is significant, but luckily it's not going to be anything more than that. But if there's one player that I look at on the Jets, and anybody who watches the show knows maybe that I have a little bit of a personal bias, I'm maybe too much of a prominent member of his fan club, is Morgan Barron. And I look at his game, and you look at his offensive numbers, and they weren't there in the regular season or the playoffs. But I looked at a guy who I thought took a next step, and you forget, like, he's still only 25 years old, right? Like,
right.
And with Lowry's injury, like, is he one of those guys that you're looking at, like, he's primed to take a next step forward in his career?
Yeah, like it's funny because Morgan Barron did see some time on that third line, right? But on the wing. But I think he's shown enough as a centerman to be able to slot into that role and have that ability. So do they put, not so much do they put that pressure on him, but I think there's an opportunity for him to fill in there. He's got the size. He certainly has the speed to do it, to handle the responsibility of being the number one checking center. But can they do it? Can they do it for extended periods of time? I'm excited for that part, because as challenging as it is not to have Adam Lowry, it's like, what can he do? And I appreciate that you brought up Morgan Barron. So there's that opportunity. That's all injuries are. It's an opportunity for somebody else. And I think Morgan Barron showed enough over the last part of the year, and certainly in the playoffs, that he can probably handle that role. But can he do it all the time at the level that the Jets will need him to? Because again, shutting down the other team's best line is a massive responsibility. But I think Morgan Barron has the ability and the confidence to do so. But can he do it consistently where the Jets can rely on him to do that? That's a question.
Well, Jamie, you used the opportunity word. That's a good one for me, because we wonder what's the opportunity going to be like for Brad Lambert. I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff mentioned Brad Lambert. He also mentioned, he mentioned Brad Lambert the year prior as well. And he got shots. I think he played 4 or 5 games for the Jets last year. But, he got the move from the center to wing this year with the Moose. Do you see this as a huge summer for him and a golden opportunity? Not necessarily to replace Nikolai Ehlers, but to bring something to this team that they don't necessarily have a ton of, which is speed.
Right. I think out of any year of Brad Lambert's career, this is probably the best. Like, this is the one where he has to look in the mirror and go, what am I? Am I going to take this opportunity? He had an incredible training camp, had everybody excited, had a great preseason. And then they send him back to the Moose. You're like, okay, he'll be one of the first call-ups. Like, that's the feeling you had with it. And it's very similar to when Billy Hainel finally had the opportunity to make the Jets, and unfortunately had the broken ankle in that final preseason against Ottawa. Brad Lambert has to grab this by the horns, because Gustav Nyquist is a 1-year deal. That's just like that's your stopgap. That's your saying, okay, if Brad Lambert doesn't work, we got Gustav Nyquist. Lambert this is his chance. Like, all his time as pro, since he's been drafted, this is the best chance for him to be what the Winnipeg Jets hoped he could be, and what I hopefully believe that he can be, a top 6 forward with the team. Like, this is your best chance. Like, I'm not saying it's your only chance, but this is the time as a professional, you got to go, okay, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for, that I wanted. And then you have to go out there and do it. And I think it was a very frustrating year for Brad Lambert from a production. Obviously, Dave, you watch way more games than I did. I will never profess to say what I know about Brad, but you look at the numbers and you see all the guys in front of him that scored more goals than he did last year, including defensemen on the roster. That just can't happen. I'm sorry. Like, it's as a pro player in the league, you're in the top 6 forward group on the minor league in the American Hockey League. There's a door open for you right now. Work out, do whatever it takes, figure it out, and show up in training camp and grab that top 6 forward group, because this is as good a chance you're going to get. If the general manager has mentioned your name the last 2 years, that to me is he's saying, okay, that you wanted this chance. Like this, everybody wants an opportunity, but it's what you do with those opportunities. So I've always been excited watching him. I've always I don't want to say he's Nikolai Ehlers light, but he is that version of that. And he was drafted to be a top 6 forward for the Winnipeg Jets. It's unfortunate it didn't work out up the middle. It's a little harder to play center, but maybe this is what Brad Lambert was meant to be as a winger in the National Hockey League. So I think, again, it's not a knock, but we're all excited to see how he responds to what is the best chance to be a Winnipeg Jet full-time.
Jamie Thomas is our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show season finale edition. You know Jamie, of course, as a Winnipeg Jets reporter. Jamie, the defense. We know there's a logjam of defensemen. They go 8, 9, 10 deep. Do you think that we see movement on that back end between now and the start of training camp? Or do you think that the status quo will persevere at least through the opening few days?
Yeah, I don't think you have to, that's the part where it's almost like locked in outside of your goaltenders. I don't think there's anything wrong with what you have. Now we can talk about Elias Salomonsson. I believe Elias needs another year in the American Hockey League. It's a tough division, position to play and to learn the professional side of it in North America, obviously. So, but would I be thrilled if he worked his way in as a Winnipeg Jet? Of course, but I don't have any issues with what the Jets have on the back end. Josh Morrissey is as good as it gets in terms of working his way back into it from an unfortunate injury. So I'll be curious to see how long that, if there's any trickle down from the recovery from his knee injury. But I like the Jet. That's the part you build from the back out, from your goaltender out. You're set at the position in goal. Your defense is fantastic. Would I, like to see Hayden Fleury grab a top 6 position? I'd be excited about that. But I think the Jets' depth on the blue line is obviously one of their strengths, and certainly in goal. So I think we'll all wonder through the summer what it's going to look like up front. And I think everyone's pretty excited to see how, what that's going to look like when training camp breaks in September. And so we'll have to see how that all goes. But I think if you're worried about the stability, you have great stability on your back end and certainly between the net and between the pipes.
So, Jamie, when you talk about stability, there's a few players that obviously come to mind: Josh Morrissey, Dylan DeMello, one guy, and feel free to let us know if you know when he's going to sign, because Dave M would love that for the website. I think you know where I'm going with Dylan Samberg, who a lot of people are expecting to sign a long-term deal. Possibly 8 years. And again, I'm asking you about probably my 2 favorite Jets on the team. I'm not shy about how big of a fan I have of Dylan Samberg, because I think this guy has and I think credit to the Jets, organization, for the way they have developed him. 2nd round pick in 2017, comes up through the Moose. I've told Drew and Dave this. I think he's a top 20, maybe even top 10 best defensive defenseman in the league. That's how good I think he is. Yeah. And I was going to ask you, what is the ceiling for Samberg? Because I think maybe a couple of years ago, people didn't realize how good this guy is, but now people, especially now that the Jets went on the playoff run and almost got to the Western Conference Final, I think people are starting to realize this guy is not good. He's really good. Yeah.
So you go into your contract negotiation this year and you're Gabe Velarde, and the tough part is if you're the Jets, you're gonna go, okay, well, we've had 1 year of this. We've had 1 year where you played 71 games. You're so close to playing 82. Can you do it again? So maybe that comes up in negotiation with Dylan Samberg. All the potential is all there. He did have a great year, but he's taken a massive step. And I think we can all agree, when he blocked that shot in Nashville, we just saw how, I don't want to say lost, but just an integral part he was the Jets blue line in their top 4. So for him to make the jump as well as he did, and I always go back to he made one mistake in that game against Vegas in the playoffs, and it cost the Jets, and they lose game 3 and they go on to lose the series. I just remember how dejected he was there and the player he's growing into. So that is like, that could have rattled him for the rest of his career as a young player, but it didn't. And now he's the player that he is now. So if it's okay to me that people get excited and like certain players, and for anybody to be, like that's why the back end is so set, because you have, Dylan Sandberg's gonna be a Jet for a long time, and that he still has room to grow. That's the exciting part, is like, he's gonna get better as he just grows into it. And he's just he's just a nice kid, and he's a good person, and will be a great player. So I think there's just like another level he's going to get to. It's just, what is this contract going to look like? Is it going to be a bridge? Is it going to be like a long extension? It just depends on. I was listening to Elliot Friedman's final pod of the year, and they were talking about what contracts will be the easiest for the Jets to do, and it made it sound like it's Dylan Sandberg. So I think what it looks like, I don't know, but he's going to be a Jet for the foreseeable future, and that's something that we should all be excited about, and love the fact that we're going to have the Hermantown connection there on the back end for a while with Neil Pionk, who had, like, that's just the year that Neil Pionk had last year.
It's a very underrated year in my opinion.
Yeah, it was, and I don't think we can. Losing your best friend the way that he did the year before, I think rattled him a lot more than people will ever understand. But the way he bounced back, that's the Neil Pionk we all know, and that's why you give him the extension, because the way the partnership that he has with Sandberg on the back end, and the guy that he is in the dressing room can't oversell that enough. So, long-winded way of saying Dylan Sandberg's gonna be around a while, and it's just another place he's going to get to, and we should all just be ready to see what that's going to look like, because last year was so tremendously exciting, and just a reason for optimism going forward, and just such a great player. And I just can't wait to see how much better he's one day he's going to be the Jets' top shutdown defenseman. There's no doubt about that. And that's great. And that's just good drafting.
Well, that leads me perfectly into my question, Jamie, about drafting. I mean, we just spent the week watching the prospects. What kind of jumped out at you from the next crop, or from any of the existing prospects?
Well, I sat beside you for the majority of it, and I remember I nudged you a bunch of times when Zach Naring was out there, because I can't. He has taken such a big step since he was drafted, and he had almost that attitude, right? The level of confidence that you want to see. A couple of times he's there with Braden Yeager, you're like, oh my gosh, this is like a future line coming down. But his size and his ability to shield the puck and drive to the net, I just think he said, was exciting to watch. Klingcell was another player that really caught my eye. And, people ask this all the time, but there's so much going on during development camp that it's hard to tell what you're seeing, because your certain drills are worked to the favor of certain players. I wasn't there for the last day where they had a quick scrimmage, but just, Zach Naring 100% caught my eye, and I will always be a big fan of Dominic DiVincentis. The level of confidence that he has shown since he was drafted by the Jets. He had that one hiccup before, was left off the Canadian roster for the World Juniors, but bounced back afterwards. And, speaking with Drew McIntyre, the goaltending guru of the Manitoba Moose, and goaltending scout for the Winnipeg Jets, just the way he bounced back, he said that's hard to reset as a goaltender in the middle of a season the way that DiVincentis did. So DiVincentis and Zach Naring 100%, and Klingcell were the guys that really caught my eye. And Boumediene, of course, like, how can you not notice his skating? And that's just like that. To me, that's an easy one. But just Zach Naring, 100%. I will probably say that he's the one that kind of got me excited watching development camp. And, goes back for another year, won a national title. Like and there's a great coaching staff there at Western Michigan. So he's in good hands. Yeah. The fact that he won a title this year, that does great things for you. And I just cannot speak enough how excited I am to see him of course, if he does end up coming to training camp. But they have something special, I believe, in Zach Naring right now.
Jamie, we'll let you go on this one. You mentioned you're at a soccer tournament, so we'll get you back to your family real quick.
Well, my wife will be like, "Oh, you left my family to go talk to the Illegal Curve crew for an hour." you disappeared in the basement like you do at home. So it's
So, at least you're consistent. There's something to be said for consistency and being
family tells they talk. So it's like that's right. So
Jamie, you know how it is. Blame us for everything. Put all the blame on us.
Yeah. It was
blame me specifically.
Guys, they gave me an opportunity I could not turn down. That's all it really was. So yeah, sorry, Drew.
It's okay. That's we digress on this show all the time. It's part of our charm, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
Scott Arniel, what's the message, on day one of training camp for this team? I mean, I think you would say that most people expect that maybe offensively they're not as strong, maybe on the power play, they're maybe not as strong as last year. So what's the message from Scott Arniel to the group? They've been a defensive stalwart, a defensive juggernaut for the last few years. Is it, what is Scott Arniel's sort of opening message to the group, do you think, at the start of training camp?
I think you're telling people or that team that the whole thing that has made you successful is your defense. And, you look no further than that opening round series against Colorado 2 years ago. Right. And you go, I mean, that's when you leave what was made you successful in the regular season. They stuck through that and it made them successful. Yes, your power play might not, but I think when Cole Perfetti moves up at the top power play, I think you're not going to miss Nikolai Ehlers as much in that aspect. It'd just be 5-on-5. You'll miss him a little bit more. I just think you say we're a great defensive team. We have the best goaltender in the world. Let's just live off that and then see why we get used to the new guys in our roster, because I still think they can defend the heck out of everybody. It's just a question of if Brand Lambert takes the step that we hope he does, maybe you still have that offense. Gustav Nyquist is a nice stopgap as well. So it's going to take guys time to get used to the system and get used to what they are. But they still are one of the best defensive teams in the National Hockey League, and I think that's what they're going to have to live off at the start of the year, unless a move is made somewhere down the road here. But I think you can win off defense to start the year. There's no question about that. I don't think that's one thing the Jets should move away from, and don't look for offense. But there's also going to be, you can also say to people, to the players, that I think people don't think we're as good as, we're going to be as good this year, and you can feed off that.
But nobody believes in us.
Nobody believes in us. That you can't do that start that you had last year, but man, even the Jets have not had starts like that before, but they still have been successful within the toughest division in hockey. So I think you can feed off that and tell them that. But man, I will forever remember the smile on Scott Arniel's face the whole time they were up front of that news conference with Jonathan Toews beside him. Like, it was just like you had this brand new toy sitting beside you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a 3-time Stanley Cup winner. Like, he was gushing at the beginning, right, Dave? You were standing beside me in the scrum afterwards, and he was still glowing about it. So that's not by accident. You just don't add somebody that's won 3 Stanley Cups every day and has won as much as Jonathan Toews had and not be excited about it. So I just think his presence alone at the start of training camp and the starting part of the year will be so huge for the team. And then you just add another layer of leadership to your dressing room that you have with, the understated leadership and confidence that you have from somebody like Luke Shen. Just adding him. Now you've added this guy. Like, he commands presence. He commands respect. I don't get very excited all the time because I've been covering this game for so long, but it's still hard not to be impressed with Jonathan Toews. Like, I mean, he's almost 20 years younger than me, but you're looking at this guy that's done so much, over his career. You can't not be impressed. So I think there's a lot there to be excited about when training camp breaks. And it's still, there's very few chill moments in our career when you start getting older. But when Jonathan Toews steps on the ice on opening night in Winnipeg, as a Winnipegger, like, I've only been a Winnipegger for 8 years, but I'm starting to understand what local people mean to the community and the city. When he goes out the first time, I understand a little bit what it means to everybody, because I tell every time I talk to somebody about the Toews, like, you guys, we walked in the dressing room, and every time a member of the Chicago Blackhawks, did you know that Jonathan Toews is from Winnipeg? Like, that was like every time. So now he's back. Now he's actually a Winnipeg Jet and looks excited to do it. That's what you feed off of, man. Like, you have one of the best winners ever in the history of our game. And he's Canadian. He's a Winnipegger. He's a Manitoban. There's lots to work off of. Be excited about when camp breaks.
I just want to hear that impression again. That's all I want.
Yes. Yeah.
That was actually you.
It didn't actually sound like that, but it's just like it was. Yeah, we would be rolling our eyes. I mean, here goes. Yeah. And then the flock of us going towards Jonathan Taves every time. Well, there's a reason for that, dude. He's won. He commands every bit of respect that we have, and the fact that he wanted to be a Jet when he had lots of other suitors tells you everything about the organization where they're going right now.
Jamie Thomas, Winnipeg Jets reporter. JT, have a great summer. Travel home safe from Alberta. We'll see you for the fantasy football draft. I'm waiting for the date on that. Let me know.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Anytime. Maybe we should do it during the Illegal Curve show. Thank you.
There, live on air. Perfect. I love it.
Best of luck to your daughter in her soccer tournament.
Yeah, lots of people love to watch fantasy football drafts. Let me tell you.
Hey, if people watch unboxing videos, they'll watch a bunch of washed-up old guys draft football players.
If kids can watch other kids playing video games on YouTube, they can watch us have our football draft because that is television at its finest.
Thanks,
watching
Jamie.
people scroll over their lists while they're trying to pick a player. That's exciting.
Bye, buddy. Be well.
Have a great day.
You too. Jamie Thomas, our good friend, joining us on location in Alberta, where he's a soccer dad this weekend. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. The season finale of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show continues. Much more to come. More Jets talk, more goofiness, more entertainment, more, and a little bit more on top of that. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling sites instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now, you might have questions like,
Do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Hour number 2 of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show starts now. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you on this Saturday morning. It's the season finale. We're all going to go our separate ways after this morning's show, returning on Saturday, September the 6th. Put it in your calendar. Subscribe to the show, subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get alerted when we return in 7 weeks' time, refreshed, rejuvenated, and willing to work together again to bring you the latest Winnipeg Jets analysis, discussions, everything along those lines. The website, of course, I should make mention, will continue to be updated as per usual. Dave M. scouring the globe to find you the latest Winnipeg Jets related news and information, all available on illegalcurve.com. News out of Darren Dreger from earlier today, about 28 minutes ago. The NHL is going to continue for another year, at least, with the decentralized draft. Dave is giving the thumbs down to that news. I frankly don't have a problem with it. They just need to improve the television product associated with it and stop doing things that are too cute. Just follow the lead of the NBA and the NFL. Just do the same thing and you will be fine. You don't need everybody to be there. Just go with what, you can have a sideline reporter, interviewing the draft picks. You don't have to have the awkward hockey house nonsense. But anyways, that tells you the quality and the caliber of news we're dealing with in the NHL world on this Saturday morning, if that is what Darren Dreger is reporting breathlessly. I mean, he wasn't breathlessly about it, but, I'm paraphrasing and editorializing there a little bit, but there you have it. Looks like we're going to be decentralized at the draft for another season next year.
I know this has nothing to do with the Jets, but it has something to do with hockey. Did you guys see last night's game between the Seattle Mariners and Detroit Tigers, where Cal Raleigh hit a home run and then Ryan Kessler caught the ball and then they threw it back?
No, like Ryan Kessler, formerly of the Canucks.
Yes, yeah.
Why was he sitting in the outfield? Is my question.
Yeah, that's a good question too. You got to if you want, go down to Bar Down. They posted it yesterday. But yeah, it's a good snag, but it's just funny the way, maybe you can pull it up, Drew, and we can show it. But it's pretty funny because it reminds me, of course, of when we were in the draft in Philly in 2014 and Chase Utley's game-winning home run went off of Drew's head. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, I mean, so he catches the ball and he throws it back on the field. You're right. It's just odd that, you think Ryan Kessler would have slightly better seats than
the man of the people, Drew. What do you want?
I was going to say, yeah, not everybody gets to sit in the private box like you do, Drew.
I guess he looks like he's still in shape. I mean, he's got a beer in his right hand there, left hand there, so that's perfectly acceptable for a night out at the ballpark. But still looks like he could play a little bit. But I think his career, did he have hip problems? Is that what ended his career prematurely?
So. Kessler had a lot of injuries towards the end of his career.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember at this point in time, but I haven't heard Ryan Kessler's name in a while. But I mean, we can break down the brawl, the golf course brawl. That was so fantastic.
Was there anything more Canadian than that? Like the only thing that's more Canadian than that, guys, is 4 cars all stopped at a 4-way stop sign.
That's very good, Ezzy. That's funny. The golf course fight was hilarious. I mean, once you get thrown into a lake, you can't come back from that. There needs to be
the play-by-play.
Well,
punch.
Yeah, bam, boom, boom, as he's hitting him. I mean, if somebody,
and tell me you saw the someone posted like a little RIP, like the next day there was a flag in the thing, like a little stake in the ground saying basically this is what happened to this guy. Rest in peace to that guy.
Yeah, maybe we'll show that video. Maybe we should end the show with that video later on. It is amazing. That went viral, which tells you it's a slow time in the sporting world as that video went viral.
Well, the thing that kept going through my mind is how many drinks did that guy have? Because Nick Tarnasky is a big boy, and he was a tough guy when he played in the NHL. So how many drinks did that guy have that he had enough liquid courage, guys? Again, maybe the last segment will.
Yeah, if we're talking about it now, let me find the video. I mean, go ahead, keep finishing.
Yeah. Well, no, it just shows you how much courage you can get from alcohol, right? But it's obviously gone viral and everybody's seen it. But yeah, it was one of the funnier things that has happened on a golf course in recent memory. That's for sure. And I saw Paul Bissonnette. They had him on Spitting Chicklets. So obviously, yeah, Drew's got it up here.
I mean, well, I'm not going to play the audio, but I mean, the guy in the purple shirt, you're right. Like he seems like he's almost comatose. He's upright but comatose. In how he takes the punches, takes being thrown into the lake and doesn't even react. It's sort of remarkable in that play. I'm not sure I actually have the right video up here. Oh no, this is the long version.
No, it's just this is the long version.
Yeah, this is the 2.5-minute version. So we'll just keep playing it while we talk about it. But can you what one punch from Tarnowski and I'm done. I'm out cold. I mean, most people are. This guy must have been absolutely liquored up. He must have been feeling.
That's what I'm saying, Drew. Like, how many drinks did this guy have? 8, 10, 15? I have no idea.
I can't even begin to wrap my brain around how you take those punches and you keep getting back up. That's the part that was absolutely astounding.
They should really play it with the, I get knocked down and I get up again.
There you go. Like from the, was that the
Chumbawamba?
Chumbawamba,
no,
yes.
Chumbawamba.
Thumping.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, I got. I will walk 1,000 miles as the Proclaimers, or whatever the hell that song.
By the way, Dave, this video has really less of an impact when there's no sound.
Well, I
yeah,
mean, I
or when it's taking a long time. Drew, you could fast forward to the good part, right?
Here you go. Now he's getting fired up. Now he's getting ready to challenge Tarnowski. Here we go.
Well, we could do our own play-by-play, like you could play him. Oh, okay.
You're in the lake now. You are currently in.
That's when a sober person knows it's over.
No, you cannot regain any pride. You're crawling out of a lake on a golf course, and now you're just getting fed.
Could at least found a couple of golf balls while he was in there.
Yeah, and then I feel bad for the guy in the white shirt who's just trying to help his friend, because he knows his friend must be just feeding him.
Like, look at the size of Tarnowski.
Yeah, I mean, the guy.
But you got to be an absolute. You got to be an absolute like moron to think. You know what? I'm going to be able to take this guy.
That final throw is just so degrading.
Yeah,
it is very degrading. Also, I will also say well, but the best part also is the guy. I got to give credit to the guy who's filming. He's very calm, cool, collected. He's like, this is good stuff. This is credit. Too often we give credit on this show to Colby Spence and his excellent videography, but too often the videographers get ignored, and that was some good video work.
What I want to know is, was the videographer a friend of Tarnowski's, or was he a friend of the guy?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's if he's a friend of the guy in the purple shirt, and he's like,
that's no friend. If you're that guy's friend, and first of all, you're not helping him, you're filming it, and then even worse,
Dave, that's for sure Tarnowski's buddy.
Yeah. Come on. But even if it wasn't Tarnowski's buddy, as you can imagine, even if you're bad enough to not help your friend out when he's getting just destroyed, then you put it out on the internet so he gets further destroyed.
You know what we should pull up? I don't know if you guys saw this, but someone put the coaches.
By the way, the Jets just signed Tarnowski to a 1-year deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways,
I don't know if you guys saw though, that somebody made a video and put the coach's corner.
I did. I saw that.
And then somebody was pretending to be Don Cherry breaking it down. It was very funny.
Oh, really?
We still haven't heard we don't know who the guy's name is in the purple shirt. You think that he would have wanted his?
He did post something, Drew.
Did he?
Someone found the guy and he was like smiling with a black eye. And I don't know like if his name is out there or anything like that. But I mean, that guy's like one of the most famous people in the world right now.
Yeah,
more infamous than famous, I'd say.
Alrighty, we digressed into that one. You knew we were going to have to talk about it at some point in time in the course of this show. I mean,
it's a lot more exciting than talking about a decentralized draft, that's for sure.
Well, I was going to say it was either that or we continue on breaking down the draft.
If you're going to go back to that, I wasn't going to get into that because I mean I'm disappointed in the fact that there isn't going to be a centralized draft because someone called it this. I don't know if it was our buddy Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects or somebody, but somebody called the draft like the NHL's annual convention.
Right.
And really it was more than just, the actual draft, like the drafting of players. It was an opportunity for like we used to go, right? Like we stopped going back in 2017, but for, 4 years there, we were going every single year. And the entire hockey world is what used to be at the draft when it was centralized, right? So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed about that. But again, what can we do about it? They're obviously going to this new format. I agree. Like, first off, it's got to be quicker.
Yes.
I mean, it was just too long. I mean, we all remember it wasn't too long ago that it was round one and it took 4.5 hours. Like, it should be to me 3 hours tops.
Well, I mean, again,
all I know is thank God we can do a live show, Ezzy.
Yeah, thank goodness
Exactly.
you get into that. I lay the blame, and I know that Sportsnet is getting a lot of heat for how they jacked up the prices of their Sportsnet Plus
30% though. Holy.
Yeah,
I actually just sold my kidney so I can afford Sportsnet Premium.
It's wildly expensive. Look, to me, the blame,
especially because hold on, Drew, you forgot to add something. It's wildly expensive for an absolutely terrible product.
That's right. For a product
that's
that
the other
works
problem.
Maybe 40% of the
it's
time.
it's not worth watching. Like, it used to be must-watch TV. Like, if anybody of a certain vintage grew up on a Saturday night, on Saturday night, and you'd watch Hockey Night in Canada,
right.
You didn't want to miss Coach's Corner. It was absolutely must-watch TV, and you didn't want to miss After 40 Minutes because it was absolutely, you were going to learn something.
You mean the satellite hot stove?
Well, whatever. But I'm just saying, didn't they call it After 40 Minutes also at a certain point? I thought it was After 40
maybe
minutes.
at some point in time they did when there
was
satellite, when they didn't use satellites anymore to bring people in.
Well, but you know what the truth is?
Dave will ask our buddy Al Strachan. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say Al Strachan wrote a really good book, which I read, which was he wrote about it and just talked about how it was must-watch TV, and now it's not. Like, I mean, honestly, as soon as the intermission happens, it's like, I'm out of there. Guys, they could be doing a Jets game, and then the first thing they talk about is Toronto. And I get that it's national, but the point is that it's terrible coverage. Sorry. And so for them to increase the prices, ridiculous.
And that's my point with the decentralized draft. It's not that that was the problem. It's the TV production. So I have to lay blame,
draft house is awful.
Right. You blame lies with Sportsnet. They're the ones who are producing the television. They are the NHL are not experts in production of television.
Yeah.
That's what the networks do. They produce television shows. So find a way to produce a television show about this topic. That's all you have to do. It's a draft. The players are going to be drafted. You sort of know the format of the show. It's not going to be, there's no real huge curveballs that generally come your way. So just do a better job of producing the show, and then you'll be fine. And then you won't care where the people are. It's not like, the draft being centralized versus decentralized really makes all that world of a difference. It's incumbent on Sportsnet to figure out a way to present it to the audience in a more in a more appealing fashion.
Yeah, but I also think it's for the kids, right? Like, so many kids don't this is going to be the highlight of their lives. It is getting drafted into the NHL is such a historical thing. And then for these kids who are 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounders, for them to kind of miss out on that opportunity to meet with the team and meet everybody. Look, the Jets had Jimmy Roy there. They had some of their other people there. But the fact of the matter is, you don't get to meet Kevin Cheveldayoff. You don't get to meet Scott O'Neill. You don't get to meet whomever else is there. So it does.
No, they get to meet them when they have that awkward conversation with them right after they're drafted.
Yeah, in the draft house. Yeah, no, you're right. But I'm just saying, so think about it. Like a guy like Jacob Cloutier, who got drafted in the 7th round by the Winnipeg Jets in 2025. He comes to get drafted. There's no media there with him. And then we do an interview with him for the first time on Friday. But my point is that little bit of fanfare that these kids are getting for the really the most significant period of their lives. And again, don't get me wrong, you're not defined by where you're drafted, but it is
drafts give late round draft.
Who cares? But Drew, the truth is you're not like any other team. Look, the NHL isn't the NBA. The NHL isn't the NFL. So the fact of the matter is that, anyways, it's not a huge deal. I just think it's just, and Ezzy's right, or sorry, Drew, you were right based on what Cam had said, is that this is, and Ezzy's right because he's been to, like you said, 5 straight drafts. This was a different experience. There's people, there's media mixing with agents, meeting with players, meeting with management. Everybody's kind of in amongst everybody. It's a really great energy. And when it's decentralized, I asked Kevin Cheveldayoff about it. I said, you told us you weren't in favor of it in advance. What did you think after? And he kind of said to me, he's like, what my vote was before. So it hasn't changed now. The only reason these guys liked it was because it's so condensed that they were able to not have to finish the draft on Saturday and get on a plane and rush home because they've got development camp 2 days later, plus the free agency starting 3 days later.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's, in any event, it's going to be decentralized for another season here, is what the long and the short of that news is. I'll wait on that next one for a little bit. Going back to hockey, this is a season finale edition of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll be back in September, as we talked about. It was certainly a special year, as we've talked about here on the show. Do you guys have a memory or one sort of moment that jumps out at you more than any other moment in the course of this past season? Be it on ice, off ice, whatever it might be that, you want to sort of make mention of before we head out on a hiatus at the end of at the top of the hour?
I still think we got another 40 minutes on the show here, Drew. So let's not wrap it up too quickly
I said
here.
At the top of the hour, I'm giving you an opportunity to reminisce right now. Is all I'm doing.
Look, it was a incredible season. I mean, starting with the first 16 games when the Jets went 15-1, best start in NHL history, and then it just continued. The Jets just stayed atop the Central Division. They stayed atop the NHL, won the President's Trophy. I mean, obviously, Connor Hellebuck's season is a season for the ages, one of the best regular seasons for a goalie in NHL history. But for me, I mean, it's all about the Manitoba Miracle, guys. That first round against the St. Louis Blues, where it looked like the Blues, with a few minutes left, the Blues were going to upset the Jets again like they did in 2019. So that's the memory. The Jets finally slaying the first round dragon, Perfetti tying it up, and then obviously Lowry getting the double overtime winner. But also the Jets getting really close to coming back to Winnipeg and forcing a Game 7 and almost beating Dallas and going to the West Final. So to me, this is about a step forward for this Jets team. And mainly the step forward that they took in the playoffs. Yes, you'd like, you would like if the first round didn't come down to, double overtime in the seventh game, but the St. Louis Blues gave the Jets a good run for their money. So that's what's going to stand out to me. That moment, watching that with my kids, Perfetti tying the game up, and then obviously I fell asleep and I missed Lowry's double overtime goal because I was putting my kids to sleep. But then, I mean, we had over 1,000 people join us
100
on the IC post-game show. So, I mean, guys, that's one of the greatest moments in Winnipeg sports history. I mean, people are like, doesn't matter how old you are. You could be, like my kid's age, you could be 6 or 7, or you could be, 85 years old. And that was just such a great moment for Winnipeg sports fans. So that's what's going to stand out to me. But at the top is for sure just going to be Connor Hellebuck putting together one of the best regular seasons in NHL history.
Well, let me ask you this: you talk about slaying that first round dragon, Dave, and I'll get your memory as well. But you talk about the Jets getting through that first round. Do you think that they are now better equipped to go on a longer playoff run because of that first round success they had against St. Louis, Dave? Or do you think that's just an anomaly and it doesn't necessarily mean anything for next year and the year after? Do you think that winning that first round really sort of changes, the mindset and the future, let's say, for the Winnipeg Jets?
I think it's actually losing the second round, to be honest with you, Drew. I mean, I think the first round obviously plays a big role, but I think we heard from Hayden Fleury at the end of the season. We heard from him again last week when we had him on this show, and we asked him, and he talked about bigger moments, and he talked about the Dallas Stars having the bigger moments. And I think that you learn so much from losing, and because of course you want to not lose again, so you try and learn from your mistakes. And I think we're looking at this team, and while there will be some changes, the core of this group is the same. So for me, if you look at this team, you're saying, okay, well, what did you guys learn? You have to learn from what you did right. But again, it's the things that you did wrong and trying to ensure that those don't repeat themselves. So that to me is what you'll take away was, can you guys learn from where you failed and offset it so you don't fail again in that capacity next year? So that'll be what I'm watching for next season when and if the Jets make the playoffs and then are playing in the first, second, third round, fourth round, whatever it's going to be, is how did they learn from where they failed this year? Because, I mean, let's be realistic. What was their winning percentage? Over 700, right? So they didn't fail very often, boys. But the fact of the matter is that it's how you learn from your mistakes, right? That's kind of shows the growth in the future. So for me, that's what I'm going to be watching for in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, time will tell, of course, on that front. I mean, it's it just, to me, it sort of seems it's a little count like you won one round. Well, that's good. It's better than losing one round. But I wonder if people are making winning that one round more significant than it actually is in terms of the future trajectory for the team.
No, but I also think too, like you go back to round 2 and, the Jets had 2 shutouts at home. Mm-hmm. They were an overtime goal away from forcing a Game 7. We know how much better they were at home in Game 7 with the whiteout crowd. And so I really think if that game comes back to Winnipeg, the Jets win and they go to the conference final versus Edmonton. Now, they wouldn't have had Josh Morrissey. So could the Jets have defeated the Oilers without Josh Morrissey? Probably not. But they still would have got to the Western Conference final, which means they're one of the best 4 teams left in the playoffs, right? So I don't think you want to put too much stock into winning round 1, but I think it's the way that you won in round 1 and how it helped you in round 2, almost knocking off the Stars, right? And look, if the Jets lost that game, Drew, which they were a few seconds away from losing, let's be honest, then we're talking about much more a different conversation about how this has been one of the most disappointing years in NHL history, where you have 116 points, win the President's Trophy, right. Hellebuck wins the Hart, but then you get knocked out in the first round by a team that you should have defeated. So I do think it was because of the fashion that they beat the Blues. It was significant. But at the end of the day, like when you look at the core of this team, whether it's Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey, Hellebuck, Lowry, the list goes on. I mean, this group the time is now for this team to win a Stanley Cup. Like Jamie said when we had him on, they bring in Johnny Taves and Gus Nyquist. Like, these are not, kittens. I mean, these are veteran NHL players, and the goal of this team is to win the Stanley Cup, and that hasn't changed over the last couple of years. But I think it's even more pronounced now that these players are going to be a year older. I'm not saying that the Jets' window to win a Stanley Cup, Drew, is a year. I'm not saying that. I think they have a few years here. The window it's closing quickly, I would say. But as long as you have the best goaltender in the world and one of the best defensemen in the world, and you also have one of the best top lines in the world, I still think they're going to be very competitive, and they're going to be right up there with the Avalanche, Stars, and Blues in the Central Division. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that it'll be a very interesting start to next season to see how the Jets, again, it will be a shorthanded Winnipeg Jets team. No Adam Lowry to start the year. No Nikolai Ehlers, of course, anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how the new players and how the new alignment sort of shapes itself out over the course of the start of next regular season. Time will tell on that front, and of course, we'll bring you all the latest here on Illegal Curve when we come back on Saturday, September the 6th, for another season of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We'll go to break, but we'll come back on the other side of the commercial messages. I'll leave this up to you guys to decide. You let me know. The Tarnowski guy, the guy that Tarnowski punched.
Is he coming on the show?
No, he released an apology video, and I have it available if you want.
Enough.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Dave,
you're the deciding factor. I say no. You say so you decide ultimately.
Okay. Well, I'll see if I can hear what he has to say
play
during the commercial break. We'll come back. Ezzy's got a suggested segment of hot takes for the NHL offseason. We can come back.
We didn't even share our memories yet.
That's true. I guess we can do your memory.
You did. All you did was ask me a question. Then I was like, okay, now it's my turn to share a memory. And then I'm like, oh, all right, I guess not.
Fair enough. Dave's memory on the other side of the break.
You too, though. We want to hear from you too.
Show. Yeah, fine. Me too. The Illegal Curve Hockey Show. It's up next. We're live on our YouTube channel and all our social media platforms.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now, you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Center. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manuka, Ezra Ginsburg with you. Saturday morning, a little bit after half past the hour. Talking about our memories of the past year, as this is our season finale episode of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Guess what date will return? In case you haven't been drilled into your head just quite enough. That's Saturday, September the 6th. Nobody can accuse me of not promoting when our next show is going to be. It'll be Saturday, September the 6th. Banjo Bowl Saturday, as the Jets, the Bombers and the Riders.
Easy to remember. Like you said, Drew, you mentioned it's Banjo Bowl Saturday.
It's Banjo Bowl Saturday. You start with Illegal Curve, the return of Illegal Curve, and you go to the Banjo Bowl right after. You can't get it wrong. You can't mess it up. Dave M, memories. You're talking about that. Memories. I won't sing.
Oh, God.
Exactly. Oh, God is right. Don't bother. I won't continue along on those lines. Do you have one? Do you have something that jumps out at you? I think you have something a little bit different than. Everybody has the Manitoba Miracle. That's foremost in everyone's mind. You still get chills. People do when they see it come across their algorithm and their timeline and all that jazz. What sticks out to you, my good friend?
Well, it's funny actually because even listen to Hayden Fleury again last week on the show. If you didn't hear it, we did clip that one, so you can watch that interview specifically, including timestamped. But it was funny when he said, even for him who's on the ice, if it comes on his feed, he'll click in and watch the call because it was such an incredible moment. So, you can't glaze over it because in a season of just incredible hockey that we witnessed from the start to the end, it really does stand out as the most significant team result. Just everything about it. The unlikely, Perfetti, I was a Perfetti who just almost scored, then doesn't, and they make a save, and then he gets that. It was unbelievable. Nemestikov scoring, of course, with a minute 57 to go. So I have to say though, we've been in the building for almost every milestone, whether it was like Steven Stamkos getting his 60th goal early, in the South, back in the South Least Division days. The first, again, I remember talking to a friend of mine. He's like, the first year of the Jets, they were dividing up season tickets, and they're like, well, he goes, shit, which game should I go? I go, the preseason game against Columbus. He goes, it's like a split squad game against Columbus. I go, I don't care. It's the first NHL game for a Jets team in this city. You go to that game. And the energy then, of course, helped by Dustin Byfuglien, drilling a guy and then basically fighting two guys 30 seconds in was incredible first playoff game in 2015. That energy was incredible. The whiteout crowd was amazing.
Dave, did you ask Drew for Dave's favorite memory of 24-25 or the last 15 years? Because now Dave is going back from 2011 to all of his favorite memories over the last 15 years.
I'm setting it up. I was going to let him go.
I'm setting it up. But my point is that having been in the building for all of those memories, those moments, again, not as obviously as a fan, but sitting in the press box watching them, but you feel the energy from the crowd. Like, I can only imagine what the players are like, because, you know, you can feel it up in the press box. And the energy for that game 7, just the tying it, was one of the craziest things I've ever witnessed live at a sporting event. So I don't think, I mean, as much as I'd love to do something else. And I have two other things I'll quickly mention.
We only have 24 minutes left.
On November 24th, 2017, I particularly remember, no, I'm kidding. But the other thing we have to mention was the team.
Patrick Laine scoring 5 goals in one game in 2018.
No, but it was funny though, because there's one thing we'll talk about it's Cole Perfetti. I want to talk about him, but it was funny. I was looking up something on Perfetti because I know you guys saw the CBA is allowing for a 19-year-old to play in the AHL next year, or in 26-27. Right? Why is Drew's face like going crazy right now? But the point is,
where are you going with this? Is what I
well, because as he just said, Patrick Laine, and I said it was funny.
I'll be pretty honest, Dave. I've really no idea where you're going with this.
I'm saying I was looking at old tweets of mine, and it was a tweet from 2021, and it was something about Perfetti. I was like, oh, he'll look really good with
Hang on. Did you just say you were looking at old tweets of yours from 4 years ago?
Well, if obviously someone who promotes illegalcurve.com didn't read illegalcurve.com because I needed it.
Is this sociopathic behavior if you're looking back at your own tweets from 4 years ago?
No. I'm not looking back at them
for help.
I'm not looking back at them and going, wow, that was a really good tweet, Drew. I'm going back because it's relevant to the article I was writing on the website. So
Drew, Dave has his process. Don't mess with Dave's process.
Anyways, so all I was going to say, well, anyways, fine. Now you guys have completely derailed me from that one. I will go back to my memories quick because I've been derailed from the conversation. I will say 2 more things. Number 1, the way the team banded together for Mark Scheifele for that game 6. I mean, that was pretty incredible. Obviously, they didn't win the game, but you could just see how significant that was for this group of guys and for the way they and kudos to the fans in Dallas because they're raising 55 for Scheifele and raising all that money or starting it. And obviously folks in Manitoba gave as well. So that was incredible. And individual boys, I will give it to Perfetti, his hat trick against Utah. And was he against Utah or Colorado? No, Utah. And that was a pretty big individual moment because it really turned his season, I thought, around.
And sorry, Drew, I just wanted to jump in here. Now that Dave is giving us his favorite memories from the 2011-2012 season, can we throw out to the audience what everyone's favorite memories are of the old Winnipeg Arena?
I'll tell you what it was.
How about Osborne Stadium where the Bombers played? Was
that the Velodrome? Remember the Velodrome?
I do remember.
You know what I'll tell you their favorite memories were? We're going to 7-Eleven paying $7 for tickets. That was their favorite memory.
Oh man, yeah. You got a Slurpee and a ticket for $14.
That was great. Thank you, Dave. That was a little bit of comic relief there. I appreciated that. And as his point, if other people have different memories or anything that they want to bring up, throw it in the chat. We'll throw it up on the screen over the next 20 minutes.
And we want specifically trough-related comments.
Well, there you go. Joe from Winnipeg, he's already put it up there. The trough is already front and center as a memory. Try from this year, despite what Dave was just doing. Try to keep it.
I was setting it up.
I'm not sure what you were setting up, but it certainly took a while.
Well, I was setting up. I felt like I hadn't talked that much on the show, so I'm like, I'm gonna go. I got some runway here.
Yeah, there you go. You certainly took advantage of that open mic and ran with it.
I think we got to throw this last segment in the trough. To be honest with you,
I would say rather than picking a specific moment, and I hope this continues. I'm going to give True North a little bit of credit. I thought that they maybe matured as an organization, and it's maybe been a gradual maturing over the last couple of years, but I think they seem more comfortable in their own skin as a company, and I think they're maybe more comfortable with their relationship with the paying public. For those of you who weren't at the Kenny and Rennie year-ender this past week, which was great, it was to me impressive to see members of True North, including the owner of the team, Mark Chipman, they're interacting with the diehards that make up a lot of our audience. We love you all for that. Make up a lot of Kenny and Sean's audience. Make up a lot of Huss and Remus's audience.
Did you say Mark Chipman was at Kenny and Rennie's year-ender?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and to me that is, I thought that was impressive, and I thought that was a sign of the organization really, getting to the grassroots and capturing some of the, just small things about that, small moments that I think builds the community and builds up the bond, and the bond between the Jets and the Winnipeg is strong. But I don't know that the bond between True North and the community was as strong. And so I think they've done a good job this year in particular, maybe trying to reinforce that. So that to me is just one of the things that I've taken away from what was a very important year here in Winnipeg, both on the ice, which we've talked about, and then off the ice as well. And sure, you might accuse me of puckering up a little bit, but I did think that it was sort of an important maybe change in tone between the True North and between the Jets and the paying public. And I thought it's worth highlighting that in the course of today's sort of reminiscence as we talk about the end of the season and the season finale here of the Illegal Curve hockey show. And Mean Gene was there too, so it's good to see Mean Gene is back from the dead, and was also at the Kenny and Rennie year-ender, and that was also a lot of fun on what was that, Tuesday night? I think it was Tuesday night. The days.
So I guess Michael Cole wasn't there though. Gene was there, but Michael Cole wasn't.
Yeah, if you want to do wrestling announcers, we certainly can go down that rabbit hole if you want over the next 20 or so minutes as well.
You want to know who, because I mean, let's be honest here, guys. It's the summer. It's the last show. We're having a little fun. If we're talking about, you guys know I'm a wrestling guy.
Yes.
If we're talking about the best announcers, like for me, it was Jesse the Body Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon. If you guys remember him back in the day. Those were my two favorites, but I loved back in the day because remember Vince McMahon used to do the play-by-play, and then he did it with Jesse the Body Ventura. So I love that.
Okay, thank you for that complete and random segue into wrestling announcers. We appreciate it there.
Also, Jesse the Body Ventura was excellent in the movie Predator. If you've seen that movie,
and his mayor is Minnesota.
Yeah, how would you assess his term as governor of Minnesota? Is he?
Sorry, governor of Minnesota.
He was mayor first, and then he was mayor of. I don't remember it wasn't St. Paul, but I don't remember what town he was mayor of, and then he became governor.
It was small. It was like a small.
I think he was. Yeah. Wasn't he pretty well liked?
Was it Shakopee?
I don't know the name of the small town. I'll let you look that up. Although I'm not sure your antiquated computer can allow you to do two things
I have a phone.
at once. You have a phone. Okay. You can look up the name of the city that he was mayor of. And well, as he assesses his political career as governor of the state.
Brooklyn Park, Minnesota.
Oh, Brooklyn
Park. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Ezzy. Good job. In any event, that's we really have digressed on that front. Are you expecting? Obviously the signings will come for the Jets. The RFA signings. They signed Isaac Phillips to that 2-year contract yesterday. He's an AHL player, so we're not going to delve deep into that. Are you expecting anything else? Do you think that there's much else set to come, or this is where we're at for the Winnipeg Jets? Really,
you mean over and above the RFAs, Drew?
Yeah, besides the signings. I mean, the signings will happen. We don't expect that they're going to be
RFAs for sure. Look, we already talked about the defense. When Sandberg signs, that's going to be 9 defensemen that the Jets have on one-way contracts, right? So I'd be pretty surprised knowing that Elias Salamonson is knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tough for him to get NHL playing time next year. I think Dave would agree. There's a good chance that he's going to play a lot of minutes with the Moose again, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But no, I'm not expecting many moves. I mean, the Jets made, quite a few signings, right? Like, like the Tanner Pearsons and the Cole Kepkes, right? Like those are guys that are more bottom six guys, fourth line guys, right? But no, I mean, Gus Nyquist, is clearly a guy that they're going to try on the second line, guys. I think, we would all agree with that. And doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to have 75 points like he did a couple of years ago with Nashville, right? But no, Drew, I'm not expecting. I think the focus for Chevy right now is long-term contract for Gabe Vilardi. We think, we're not sure. What does that mean? 5 years? What does that mean? 8 years? I mean, I think we all agree that Vilardi and Sandberg, if you could get those guys locked up for 7 or 8 years, I mean, that would be great. And then throw in Morgan Barron in there as well. And just wanted to say one thing. Like I really do think Morgan Barron is going to be one of those guys, especially with Adam Lowry injured at the beginning part of the season. He's going to get an opportunity to play up maybe a little bit higher in the lineup, because he's been a guy who has been more of a fourth line guy, but I think he's going to get to have an opportunity centering that third line with Niederreiter and player X, Alex Iafallo, Tanner Pearson, whoever that is, right? So Morgan Barron, I really do think is going to be a very key. He already has been an important player for the Jets. If you think about it, right? He's used on the penalty kill. Scott Arniel obviously and the coaching staff has a lot of trust in him. But no, I don't think that there's a bunch of moves, Drew. Like maybe like a depth forward. I don't know, but I think the focus is all on the RFAs right now.
How many years, Dave, do you think that Gabe Vilardi is going to sign for? If you had to guess, how many years of a contract extension is he going to sign for? He's 2 years away from unrestricted free agency. So, the Jets clearly don't want to walk him into UFA status. That would be, something unexpected. Do you think it's 4 or 5, or do you see it, having a bigger year attached to it?
I mean, I could see them look, they know the success they have on the power play when he's part of it. They know the success on the first line with him. I mean, he's become an integral piece of this, or member of this team. So, I mean, you don't have someone who's going to replace him, right? That's the other factor, right? We don't know what a lot of these young guys are going to turn into. We don't know what the Braden Yaggers and the Colby Barlows are going to be. You know what Gabriel Vilardi is going to give you. And for a team that has a contention window with the top goaltender in the NHL for, let's say, at least the next 3 years, you need to have his services secured. You can't afford not to have that uncertainty, especially when you don't have any uncertainty with Kyle Connor, right? Kyle Connor is available for an extension. As of July 1st, he was available, as was Adam Lowry. So the fact of the matter, though, is that if you're looking at this team and you're like, well, do you want to have the same situation with Kyle Connor going into the final year of his deal that you had with Nikolai Ehlers and not having him extended? So for me, Drew, to answer your question, I would think that it's got to start with a 5, because if Gabriel Vilardi's group is like, well, we'll go for a 3-year deal, Jets aren't going to do a short-term deal. They're going to want, I think that it starts with a 5 for the Jets at least. And with Sandberg, I mean, I can't see why. Like
9 years, give him 9 years, Dave.
Yeah, they'll be like, screw you, NHL. We don't care if it's an ineligible contract. We're going to sign it anyways. So for me, like Sandberg, you go either max or, I mean, he might not want to go max quite yet because he hasn't gotten to the point where he's going to get paid. He doesn't produce his defense, his numbers. We know, everybody knows his defensive impact. There's no question about that. The question is, he doesn't contribute offensively enough to get paid to the degree he may want. So he may want to only go 5 years, have some security, and then say, okay, and then maybe when he's gotten a bigger role in the Jets, he's producing more potentially, then maybe he goes for another big deal.
It's, if he goes 6 years, that'll match him with his D partner, Neil Pionk, in terms of contract extension. I mean, 6 years would then allow him to still sort of have another probably bigger contract at the age of 32, somewhere around there. So I don't think the Jets, I don't think either side would really blush at that as being a number that's presented moving forward. You mentioned, Kyle Connor. Do you think this gets done before training camp or within a few days of training camp? Because that's a big sort of sword to dangle over the entirety of the 25-26 season if Kyle Connor is, a pending UFA without a contract extension. I mean, it's sort of interesting.
I think we're talking about probably the first double-digit contract here for the Jets, like the first guy to make $10 million. Or I think that's kind of what we're talking about, right, guys? Are we not? Like coming off of a 97-point season, I think I expect Connor to sign a long-term deal. I'm not sure when that's going to happen.
Let me ask you this then, as a
but yes, I do think it's going to happen. I'm going to predict it will happen before the season starts. That's my prediction.
I don't think any of us expected Nikolai Ehlers to sign a long-term contract last year. So why do we have this higher degree of confidence that Kyle Connor is going to sign a long-term deal? Is it
a good
because his
question.
usage?
Yep.
Is it because that he's always sort of played that prominent shotgun role next to Mark Scheifele? He's always had, since he's established himself in the league, he's always had the top line minutes, and so he's in a good situation there. Is that why we assume?
I think that's definitely a huge part of it. It is different. I think, Connor, his importance to this team, I mean, really cannot be understated. This guy basically, after he played a little bit for the Moose, a half season or whatever, and he's come into the NHL. I mean, he's lived up to, being the, 17th overall pick in 2015, right? And all the talk when we talked to Craig Button at the draft in Florida, Dave, and he was saying that the Jets had a steal at 17th overall, right? And he was right. Mm-hmm. You get a 97-point player. He should have probably gone at least. Boston should have used one of those picks on Kyle
one
Connor,
of the three.
Right? So, yeah, no, I think Drew, usage is part of it. I mean, Connor's obviously been a big staple of that first line with Mark Scheifele and now Gabe Vilardi, previously Blake Wheeler. So I think that's part of it. But I think, he's even more important to this team than Nick Ehlers, just because of his goal scoring. And obviously he's a good playmaker too. But there's also just no reason to believe that he isn't going to sign a long-term deal with the Jets. Like I have no reason to believe that he won't, I guess would be my answer. All indications are that the Jets want to sign him to a long-term deal. And, I saw some comments in the chat. Some people are saying 11 million. I'd give it to him. Like, if it's going to take $11 million a year to keep Kyle Connor, do it. I mean, obviously I'm not Chevy. I'm not spending Mark Chipman's money. Right. But I mean, I would, as an analyst of the Jets, I would have, like, I think that highly, Dave, of Kyle Connor, that if he ends up getting $11 million a year, I mean, all the power to him. He deserves it. He's that elite of a player.
And while that number sounds big, Drew, I mean, let's remember the cap is going up to like 113 million, not too far away. So that's percentage wise of the cap. It's not going to be out of proportion for what he's probably receiving right now. I mean, that's the other thing. So it is a huge question mark. And I would say I'm with Ezzy. Like, I don't think there's any chance you can go, or maybe you said it, Drew. I don't think there's any chance you can go into the season with that uncertainty like you had with Nikolai Ehlers. I think with Kyle Connor, obviously you want to secure the services of Adam Lowry again, but I just think you just don't have anybody to replace him, and you just aren't going to. It's not going to happen. I mean, this is, again, because the reality is, and everybody says, oh, well, you've got all these young, exciting guys. They are, but they're years away from that experience. Like, they need
also
the
don't know that they're going to be 40 goal scorers and 100-point players.
I mean, that's the point.
We
don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what Braden Yager is going to be at the NHL level. We don't know what Colby Barlow is going to turn into at the NHL level. So, I mean, again, but that's why those guys will be in the AHL next year, because they're gonna be doing their seasoning along with Jacob Julian, possibly Elias Salamonson, maybe still Brad Lambert, and Nikita Chibrikov. So there'll be lots of exciting players to watch on the Manitoba Moose next year. That's for sure.
Well, let's segue into that briefly, Dave, because I know you want to address it, and CMAC put this up there on the chat. What about the fact that starting in 26-27, one 19-year-old per team will be allowed to play in the AHL, something that Cole Perfetti, to your point, benefited from during the COVID year. I know you wanted to address this and you accused us of ignoring you. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about this and how this, given your expertise at the AHL level and your observations of the AHL, how you think that this change will impact.
Well, I mean, I just think it's really interesting because I think no time more than ever in hockey has there been so much up in the air, right? Because of the NCAA allowing guys from the CHL to play, what the impact it's having on the CHL. We just saw Gavin McKenna, who's presumably the number one draft pick for next in the 2026
Oh, he'll be number
draft.
one.
Yeah, right. So, but you just saw him commit to Penn State, and I heard something crazy. I heard he's going to get $700,000 in NIL money. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I mean, it's changing the landscape of sports as we know it. Junior sports.
What does NIL mean?
Name, image, and likeness. Basically, it is paying. It's paying players. It's paying NCAA athletes.
But it's very
to
weird.
Promote their brand, and I mean, And you know who the big benefactor of Penn State University hockey is? It's Terry Pagula, the owner of.
I was gonna say it's Terry. Yeah, I thought it was Pagula, right?
Well, it makes sense because Buffalo's going to finish last and draft him. So,
but no, but it's just the whole NIL thing is weird because like some school, like UND doesn't do NIL, other schools do, and then players get a benefit, so they make money while being in college, right? So there's so many different factors, but I just think from a benefit to a player, we sometimes we'll look at guys and we're like, well, does it really benefit? He's not good enough to be in the NHL, but he's too good to be back in junior. And so you look at him and you're thinking, are you stagnating the player by sending him back to junior hockey where he's just going to dominate, but he's not really growing his game? And so Cole Perfetti got the benefit, unintended, of course, because of COVID and the OHL. He would have had to go back for the record if the OHL would have resumed, but he got, even unlike the WL, which played in the bubble, OHL canceled their season in 2021. So Perfetti was allowed to stay with the Moose, and he developed, as we talked about, from a guy who went on the periphery to a guy who understood he had to go to the middle to have some more impact at the HL level. So it's just interesting. Like a guy, like you look at this year, like Kieran Walton and Kevin He. Did Kevin He need to go back to the OHL? Probably, but maybe he might not have. So it's not an option this year. He and Walton and will both be back in Sudbury and Niagara. But the fact of the matter is that Owen Martin, boys, who's playing for Spokane, the Jets third rounder, and of course the Winnipegger, if he is just outperforming the WHL in 2 years, then the Jets will have that option to send him to.
Owen Martin's only 18. We should mention that now.
Yeah, he's 18 this year, but in 20 when this rule comes into effect in 26, 27, he'd be 19. So that's why I'm saying so he'd be an option, and then technically Edison Engel, but we know he's going back to college. So even though he's playing junior next year, he'll be playing college the following year.
I think what you're saying is the landscape is changing, and how draft picks are handled is changing, because it used to be you played junior hockey that made you ineligible to play NCAA hockey. That's no longer the rule. You know, that now you have this rule where, 19, you can play in the AHL, at least one player per roster. So the landscape of prospects and their trajectory and where they're going to sort of play out their development before they get to the pro levels is changing, and everything alongside of it, we don't really know what it's going to exactly shake out, but it's certainly going to be something worth observing and worth keeping an eye on.
That's going to happen is there's going to be more player movement. There's going to be more players going the NCAA route, and there's going to be more playing time for the 16 and 17-year-olds in the WHL, the OHL. That's what all of the, I guess the insiders or the people that are involved in the CHL and the NCAA say, and those who cover it say, is that's what this is going to mean, because there's going to be more players that say, well, I'm 18 now, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to go play for this great program that I couldn't before. And so what that's going to mean is probably the CHL teams are going to get a little bit younger. And just one more point,
especially if those great college teams are able to pay, the superstar young players.
Exactly.
Especially, if there's real money to be made at a younger age in college and NCAA, then junior hockey and their monopoly over these players is certainly going to quickly come to an end, because ultimately, yes, you get an education, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, but you also can make some, decent bank for some of these players as well.
Yeah, it's a good point, Drew. And just one final thing I wanted to say was, I think it's going to be interesting, Dave, to see how many of the 32 AHL teams use a 19-year-old. Like, are all 32 teams going to use it? Or are half of the teams going to use it? Like, just because you can doesn't mean you are, because I mean, like you said, it's very interesting. Like, people like Mike Keane, Jimmy Roy, Zinger, like, how do they decide, is a player better suited to play one more year in the OHL or the WHL? Or do we want to is he ready to play pro now at 19 years old, right? So it'll be interesting to see if, like, a team like the Moose uses a 19-year-old every single year just because they have the ability to do so, right?
Now, 19-year-old has to be ready for the grind and the wear of playing against 25, 26, 27, 28-year-old men.
Exactly.
Well, and it's also going to be situational, because if you look at the Moose right now, I listed off, there's probably 5, 6, 7 prospects who are going to be playing on the Moose. Do you really want to add one more 19-year-old to that mix? So I'm saying, like, it's not like, as he's right, it's not a guarantee that a team, just because they haven't, like Owen Martin, they might look at him and say, well, he could be ready, but we've already got like 6 or 7 guys. Like, it's different, because hopefully at that point guys will have graduated. But my point is that if this was the year that they allowed that rule and you had Kevin He and Kieran Walton, Do you necessarily want to do that with all those other prospects? You might not want to do it because it might be a few too many. So I'm just saying it just changes the landscape. And Drew, you talk about unusual pass. I mentioned Edison Angle, the Jets. I think he was a 5th rounder. The point is he went from, or is it 6th rounder? But anyways, he went from USHL. He's playing for Brampton next year in the OHL, and then he's already committed to, I think, Ohio State in the NCAA the following year. So, I mean, how unusual is that's not something we've ever seen before. And so it's very unusual, but hey, it's going to be, we'll adapt along with it.
We will adapt along with it, and very unusual is a good slogan for us here at Illegal Curve. That does it for the 2024-2025 season of shows. We're on hiatus after I hit the end stream button until Saturday, September 6th, Banjo Bowl Saturday, when we will return for another season of Illegal Curve hockey. Thanks to all of you. It's without all of you being here on a weekly basis, I am confident that this show would not be nearly as fun. I'm not even sure we would do it, to be perfectly honest. So we hope that you have a safe summer. Continue to have a safe summer wherever you're spending it. If you're out at the cottage, if you're going for a walk through Assiniboine Park with a loved one, whatever it might be safe. And we'll see you back here on Saturday, September the 6th. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks to our sponsors, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Play Now, Holt Dental, Boston Pizza, City Place, Seagram's, Wheatland Hockey. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. IllegalCurve.com will roll on as you expect, uninterrupted coverage on the Jets. You never know, maybe we'll pop up if events warrant. But until then, until Saturday, September 6th, thanks everyone for watching. If it's Saturday, it's the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.